I'm sorry. I just wanted Martin to hear the applause rise for a moment there. I don't really, nothing is more pointless than to try to introduce Martin Short. If you don't know who he is, why the hell are you here? It's certainly one of the funniest people I ever saw, heard of, or met. His show will keep you laughing even after you've left the theater. No extra charge for that, I guess. It's really fun. And some people have said he's too versatile. I've never known what the hell they mean by that, but maybe we can find out from him. I can't remember when I first saw him, but I remember falling partway off the bed, laughing. I was on the bed at the time. That made it easier. I don't know what else to say, except that I don't have my glasses. I was going to read you from the playbill his credits, which piece of the play here. He has been in 184,000 shows, and he has had every Emmy and Tony and Oscar and Moomie and every damned award possible. I wonder if he can prove that there are that many. He's got them all listed here. So I will spare you reading from this and instead just say those 3 syllables. Martin Short, ready up. Martin, don't play the fool.
No, don't be silly. An Oscar, that's
What, an Oscar, yeah.
I have 3 daytime Oscars. Yeah.
I never thought of this before, but do you, when you're on Broadway, I was on Broadway a couple of times, but do you
Must
think...
it always be about you?
Yes, I know. Anyway, tell us, Mr. Cavett, Mr.
No, that's your Cavett.
Short.
Yeah.
Do you think Tony when you're doing a show?
No, of course not.
No. I see. Okay.
No, I think that it's, I won a Tony, and it is the greatest thing you can win. It really is.
It is, of the awards.
I think so, because it's the award that can't be created by someone else, you know? I mean, you can be in a movie and literally be saved by a brilliant editor and be praised for it. But in a stage show, that's you up there, and you can't fake it. So I guess it's the ultimate actor's award. Would you like to win 2 and 3 and 4 Tonys? Sure. But I don't think I think that if you operate under that idea, you're crazy. Right. And you're me.
This is very modest of him, because I thought I was setting him up for something.
What?
In an interview you've long forgotten, you said, I really don't aspire that high. I'm hoping for a daytime Tony. Should I do some more of your stuff?
Yeah, no, I'm happy with the daytime. Any daytime Tony they'll give me, I'll take it.
When I watched the Emmys, it felt like this to me. And now here are our 2 presenters, Tom Dyson and Irene Cohen, and 2 people walked out. I didn't know who the hell they were. And the winner is Charlotte Claiborne. I didn't know who the hell she was.
Right.
Am I the only one? Have I just stopped watching nothing but The Sopranos? Do you
Well, I think it is tricky, you know. I mean, you know better than anyone from if you were on Johnny Carson in 1968. You know, I'm sure that everyone would see you and you'd walk down the street the next day and they'd go, hey, Dick, you were great on Johnny Carson.
Right.
Now you can be on, David Letterman for 20 minutes and there's a good chance your own wife didn't bother to tune in because there's 900 stations and 900 options. And I think there's so many things to watch. And then I don't know about you, I stopped watching television at one point. You can select television, you can create through TiVo your own way of watching. The Marty Short Network, which is my TiVo, has everything from, a Dick Van Dyke show to Bennett Cerf on What's My Line. This isn't the, that's 1 down, 9 to go, and we go to Arlene Francis. Right. Thank you, John. That guy.
The late Fred Allen called Bennett Cerf a tweed wastebasket. Fred Allen. God, I hope we don't have a disgusting audience of young folks here.
Well, no, I wouldn't even call it young. Fred Allen died 57 years ago, Dave.
Are you? No.
You could be getting your second retirement check and still never have heard of Fred Allen.
Fred Allen's dead?
Yes.
Boy, I'm not getting the papers.
No.
You will agree this is funny. Allen, as you may know, never really succeeded in television and had some awful shows, and he was the wittiest man alive, along with Groucho and George S. Kaufman. And he hated Burl's success. And someone asked him, this will be short, someone asked him what he really thought of Burl. And he said, Milton is the moron's messiah. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
It's just fun to say. When you were backstage just now, I wondered if the minute you got here, it didn't suddenly hit you, good God, I do 8 shows a week, expends the energy of 10 people in it, and never seems to be straining or working hard, but you know it has to take its toll. And at what point today did you awaken and say, why in the bloody hell did I give away my Sunday evening?
No. Certainly, first of all, not coming out on the stage, but certainly the drive here. Yeah. No. No. This is a brilliant organization, and it's for charity. I'm happy to do it. Why would I want a free night where I might have a cocktail? So I had the cocktail.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I was just watching this latecomer come in. We've been worried about you. I think I stole that from Barry Humphries.
Yeah. That's okay.
I was going to say, another constant.
What, you want to hear the Fred Allen story you missed?
Oh, yeah. Did you miss it?
Fred Allen died in 1956, in case you're under 70.
Ask your neighbor in the seat next to you to tell it to you. Where were we? Oh, another constant I noticed in the press that I grabbed up and read about you, they always harp on one fact, actually on several, and one of them is he hasn't had enough problems in his life. He's doing a show. Typically, the people who do one-person shows on Broadway have their alcoholism or their abortions or their other problems that they had before the show, of course.
In no specific order.
You don't have any, huh?
No order, just anything.
Yeah.
Well, I think that, no, I haven't. But, we all have stories to tell. But I think the question is, at what point do we not expose our private world? I never knew if Bob Hope was an abused child. I don't know if I cared. Mm-hmm. And I think that it became probably tied to reality television. I can't believe it doesn't have some influence, where it became mandatory, that now we can't just see Bodie Miller ski down the hill. We have to know that he likes to party. And, or we have to know the background of everyone's private, there has to be a sad video attached to their triumph.
Way, isn't it? Yeah.
And so I think that certainly the tradition of, and I think it's easier to be able to say, I was 24 and I lost my cousin, and I'm going to tell you the story about what it was like to lose that. That's 10 minutes. Yeah. And jokes would probably be harder in those 10 minutes, so it's tempting. But I think that for me, I'm just too kind of Canadian, and I'm hesitant to. Believe me, I could make you cry right now just by.
Don't you dare.
No, but why? I don't know. It seems like, but the gist of my show is that it's this idea that to purely entertain is antiquated and not allowable. So therefore, I feel fictitiously that by just entertaining, I will disappoint the audience, so I must let them know that I've been, abused and through rehab, whether it was true or not.
Yeah. You could have spared the hemorrhoid stuff, I think.
Well, it seemed important at the time.
Got me on that one.
Yeah.
So you have, as we say in German, a keine Tragödie, how do you say in English? No tragedies really in your life.
Well, I mean, I have, I think that I can't imagine a life without some sort of tragedy. I lost a brother when I was 12. I lost my parents by the time I was 20.
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did know that. Man.
But I think that actually empowered me. I think that it made me more fearless on stage,
I think I.
You
can
go
identify
to an
with
audience and they hate you, and you're going to say, "What are you going to do? Kill my parents?"
that. Yeah.
My parents are dead. Go ahead, try to take my parents from me. It's already been done.
Wonderful insight.
Thank you. And coated with such sensitivity.
Yes. That's right. And feminine charm.
Thank you so much.
What?
Let me uncross my legs.
How many Jews? Sorry. Can I? Where was I? Frivolously, folks. How many Jews do you think the people in the audience think are on stage right now? I mean, applaud if you think it's 2. There's some evidence. 1. None? I don't know where to play, do you?
This is such a great new game show.
Yes.
How many Jews are on stage?
Well, you lost the big money, but
Yeah.
that's so interesting.
You're not Jewish.
Well, do you know I might be, and that is the. No, I mean, Mel Brooks called me spectacularly Gentile and other such things. Always, whenever he sees me as a variation on that. And I learned that I have a German side of my grandparents' family in the old country who was not spoken of a great deal. And as a kid, I said, why? What is he, a criminal or something? Once grandmother Pinch said he was Judaish. Now, what does that make me, 1/14th?
Makes you a wasp.
Yeah, I think probably does. Yeah. But
I'm a Roman Catholic. Dominis vobiscum et conspiratio sanctos Dominis forebus.
and Spiritus Sancti.
Kyrie eleison. Christi eleison.
Te Deum.
Si, senor. Si, senor. Oh, my God. I'm mixing my metaphor. What was your point, Dick?
I guess I
If
came
this
here
is
to
tied to Fred Allen, I'm getting in the car.
I came here to come
No,
out
I know,
of
because you're saying that many people think that I might be Jewish.
Yes, they do. People
And why
I
do you
ask,
think that is?
Invariably, the handful of people. I don't go around all day, with a lantern finding out if you're Jewish, but several different ones, as we say in the Midwest.
Yeah.
Did they say that in Canada? Different ones saw the show and said it was real good.
Yeah.
But have said to me, he's Jewish, isn't he? They're never certain, but they think you
what
are.
would it
Because
be?
you're in comedy?
I don't know.
I can't think of
I
any
don't
other
know.
Jews in comedy.
Yeah. Yes.
When they see you, the folks on the street, the unwashed public, your grateful fans,
Yes.
do they forever say, "Oh, do just a minute of," and then do one of your characters, or do
Yes,
just
they
talk
do.
like Grimley for just
And
a
I
minute?
just keep walking.
Do you?
No, I think that you can't. It's interesting with me. I love if you're in comedy, and of course, that if you're in comedy, you're kind of blessed because people come up to you and they're continually, not like if you were Stallone saying, "I want to have a fight with you." They're coming up to you and saying, that time I had the flu, I looked at the TV and you made me laugh, or sometimes when they walk past you, they'll just smile. And so it's kind of great. But as far as being, throwing me a fish and expecting me to go, I just keep walking, because I don't really care.
Yeah, you're going to say what I'm about to do is about me, but it's about
I could have put $1,000 on it.
it's about what you. I can't work with this guy.
No. Go ahead.
It's about what you said. 8th floor NBC Johnny Carson taping ends. Jack Benny gets in the elevator, and because I always was a writer, hung out with Benny and Hope and whenever they were on the show. So I got in the elevator with Jack Benny, and he, from the 7th floor to down, he's in his Burberry coat, looking nice. Someone said, "Do you really not pay Rochester?" Someone else said, "Are you really stingy?" Somebody said, "Can you really play the violin?" And somebody else said, "Mary Livingston really or what?" And you realized for decades he'd been going, Yeah. Got out, I thought how polite he was. They all ran to tell their friends what they had just seen.
Yeah, they'd sung them.
And he put his arm on my shoulder and started that sort of walk that he does with the toes outward. He said, "You know, kid, sometimes you just want to tell them to go fuck themselves." Oh, God. I mean,
I was once going through an airport, and I had literally 3 kids, babies. I had one baby, one 2-year-old, one 3-year-old, my children, and we're racing for an airplane. And a woman comes up and says, "Would you sign this?" And I said, I know I can't because I'm going to miss that flight. And as I was leaving, she screamed, "And I heard you were nice." And in that moment, you want to just drop the kids and then go back and drop her. But you don't. You're just best to be immune to it. But most people, I do think that in my life, most people have been awfully kind when they come up. And it's kind of,
they are, yeah.
And I do think it's because you've brought, in comedy, you bring, one time I went and saw Liza Minnelli. I'd never met Liza Minnelli. And I saw her with Paul Schaefer and Dave Thomas and Gene Levy from SCTV. We all went to Las Vegas. We were there for a day and a half, and we saw Liza and Margaret and Wayne Newton in a day and a half. It was unbelievable. And there was a cocktail involved, of course. We were in Vegas. But Liza was on stage, and we were making bets who would be introduced first and last, as she would introduce us from the audience, each person of those people I mentioned. But it got to Liza, and she said, I thought I'd seen George Hamilton in the audience at one point. And I'll get to that in a second. So Liza says, "There are 4 people out there I'd like to introduce who are terrific. 2 from SCTV," she's reading it, "my favorite show." She's never seen it. She says, "Dave Thomas and Eugene Levy." And then she says, "Also, there's someone who's on the David Letterman show who's a genius, Mr. Paul Schaefer." Then he stands up and does it. And then she says, now, I've never met Liza Minnelli. She says, "There's someone else out here who's helped me through a lot of stuff. He's been there for me." And I turned to Paul and said, "I bet she's talking about George Hamilton, because I know they'd made a movie." I said, "I bet she's introducing George Hamilton." She said, "He's not only brilliant, but I think he's real handsome too." And I turned to Paul and said, "Would you call George Hamilton brilliant?" "Mr. Marty Short." And it's me. I stood up, I waved, I pretended we were old buddies, never met her. But then I think that what she was saying, that through comedy I'd helped her.
And you were always there for her.
Through a lot of rough stuff, I was there for her. Oh, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with a few lies in show business. No one wants the truth.
Being introduced in an audience is one of the scariest things in show business. I don't have any nerves going on stage. I don't have any nerves going on television after all the years I've done it. And having a man die, after that, everything's sort of easy. Having a man die on the show. So I don't really have any nerves. But if I'm in an audience and I know I'm about to be introduced, you can see my heart start to pound. Or at an auction. It's terrifying, and my heart pounds. What is that?
I don't know. My heart only pounds if I think they're going to skip me.
Yeah. Oh, God, Martin, you know Hollywood lore better than I do, perhaps. I should hope you do. Was it true that at an Oscar years ago, Rosalind Russell heard her name and started down the aisle, but everyone else had heard Patricia Neal or whoever it was?
No, you're kidding.
You know that story?
No, I never heard that.
Yeah, she got about 6 rows down and somebody grabbed her and She made her way back up ignominious. How could she?
Well,
I'd want them to
particularly
hand
'cause
me
Roz
a,
doesn't sound like Patricia. No, I mean if it's the winner is Martin Short, Martin Sheen. I guess
she was so sure. Yeah, that Martin. Yes.
Yeah.
Sure, she heard her name. How could she ever go out of the house again after that? Is more.
Oh, you just have to move on.
Who's the worst pig you ever worked with in the business?
Other than tonight, you mean?
I'll tell you why he's sore. Go ahead.
I don't know. Well, I could actually name a name in 1 second, but I don't think you can you? I mean, I don't think it's right. I don't think it's polite.
No, but sometimes it's fun to ask that sort of thing.
Yeah, it is.
And
sometimes you hate someone, I guess, so much that you still wouldn't care. The person I just wasn't crazy about, I wouldn't want to say.
Yeah.
Okay,
could you write it out and I'll hold it up?
Absolutely. Pass it on. Pass it person to person.
I said to Miss Betty Davis, I don't know if this is the show that'll be on one of the coming Thursdays. Yeah, I think it is. I said to her, who's the worst pig you ever worked with? And let me show you how the timing went. Betty, who's the first pig or the worst, the most awful, unspeakable pig you ever worked with? Miriam Hopkins. Just like that.
No hesitation.
Like that.
Yeah, I think Betty would have been probably hard to please, though, don't you? Don't you think a few people would have said, Betty Davis,
Oh, one or two, yeah.
Yeah. Who's the biggest pig you ever worked with?
Gosh, I wish I could think who. There are one or two, but nobody really god awful. A lot of people don't like Jerry Lewis. I wrote for him, and I always had a fine time with him.
You work with a lot of people. You work with Jerry Lewis. You work with Jack Parr. All these people were my idols, I don't want to get it back on me. I don't know why it would be, but I loved Jack Parr more than anything. I had lunch with him once in 1993. It was one of the greatest thrills of my life.
Did you meet him?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was he nervous? Sort
well,
of?
He was,
hi, kid.
Hi, dear boy, and oh, you're working very hard. I was doing the Goodbye Girl. You're working very hard. He was very fascinated when I could have a drink. Can you ever have a glass of wine before you go on? What about afterwards? You can have wine then. Would you ever have something stronger than wine?
That's uncanny. The pitch, everything is perfect about it. Yeah. I thought he was the worst person I ever worked with one night when he appeared to fire me about a guest I'd put on the show, and Alexander King, God, that'll take you back.
I remember him.
Had bad-mouthed my guest to Jack before the show. I was a booker then. And afterwards, I'll tell you who it was, Michael McLeamore, the great Irish actor, Orson Welles' size, and doing Oscar Wilde on Broadway. I put him on the show. He was wonderful. But before the show, Alexander King had gone into Jack's office and said, "This hideous fag with his god-awful lifted face and be hideous beyond belief." All Jack had to hear was fag or even the letter F. And his...
was he homophobic?
Homophobic beyond belief.
Really?
Yeah. And I mistakenly, he called me in his office and said, "Why, you're putting all these fags on the show." Putting all these fags on the show. And I said, "Well, for your information, some of my friends think your friend Alexander King has a limp wrist." Well, they didn't. I was just desperate, and I made it up.
Yeah.
And
a limp wrist and a fag. This is a lovely conversation. That's another series new on ABC. Limp wrist and a fag coming this fall.
Oh, while we're on fags.
Yeah.
We used to say thanks, didn't we? And we used to say thank you. Or we used to say thank you very much, or thanks kindly, or whatever. But who introduced the now pervasive, faggoty thank you so much? Thank you so much. And the woman who says it
I don't know whether to wave or salute at that comment. Thank you so much. Who says that? I thought you were going to say cheers.
You watch.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You watch. The same people who say anti-Semitic. Does that get you? My nails go into my palms. I don't want to say anybody's name, but the host of Meet the Press
Tim
whoever
Russert?
whoever that is. Yeah, it says anti-Semitic, and some Jews say anti-Semitic. And how do you look at the letter I and pronounce it E? Gets me. Nuclear, forget about, but and the man who says it.
Well, that's
That's
our
wh-
president.
Huh? Yeah.
He struggles with certain words, but
Yeah.
why should we expect so much from him? He's only the leader of the free world.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. Hope. I haven't gotten used to him, have you?
No, it still seems like a typo.
Thought it would wear
Yeah.
Yeah. This is true. Oh, Lord. Where do you begin, though, with a man like that? I don't know. But I had a guy on the
You
show.
know what? I'll tell you. Let me say something interesting about George Bush. I find the interesting thing about George Bush is it's like all characters. You know, when I was doing Father of the Bride, I played the wedding coordinator. Oh, thank you. But literally, it was a character that the producer and the director and Disney, the studio that did the film, were very concerned about, only because the film itself is very reality-based. Mm-hmm. And suddenly, into the middle of a film comes, "Hello, pleasure to meet you. You want to talk with the..." And they were concerned, and I said, you know, I have this, you know, I'm an actor, I can turn up the faucet and make each take a little bigger. And I said, you know what? And the director loved to do lots of takes. I said, let's do 30 takes. And we'll do 30 variations on this character. It's the first day we were doing it. And it wasn't helped that Diane Keaton was breaking up in every take, so that added another 15. But what I kept doing is I kept adjusting it, but I knew that at the end of the day, if they were smart, they would pick the high end. In other words, the broader character, because as long as it's not about being broad, it's about being sincere. And so if you go to the cleaners and you pick up your shirt and the guy says, "You want the plastic?" And you look at what he's wearing and he's an insane madras something, and you'd say, if you presented this character at Saturday Night Live, they'd say, "No, it's too big. It's not real. You've got to make it real." And yet here's this guy existing because he's
over the
sincere.
top.
That's what I feel about George Bush. Yeah. If you were trying to write the script in 1998 and you said, okay, the President of the United States will be this character whose grammar will be like a child's, and he will simply be who he is, you'd say, let's bring it down a little bit. Let's make it a little more realistic.
Do you, that's a very good point, by the way. I just think do you think he's modest enough to have caused 50,000 deaths?
Excuse me?
That's about the number that are dead because of George Bush's decision that one night when God, I believe, or someone like him, told him he wanted him to be president, yeah.
Right. Well, listen,
Mostly civilians, Iraqis.
I'm sure he's a pleasant man. I've never met him. I mean, I'm sure that it's not about whether, it's really, I think what we're really talking about is qualification of a job. Yeah. I can't believe he made those huge decisions on his own. I'm sure there were other people in that room.
It's always a little disconcerting when somebody says, you know, he's a lot smarter than he gets credit for. God, he'd have to be, wouldn't he? I mean...
Will we be arrested at the end of this show? I never...
Talking to my lapel.
Yeah, really. Yeah. Hey, that's the brilliant thing about this country. Can you imagine other countries? You couldn't say this.
This is so. They don't seem to appreciate that. But if you...
I do.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking the other day, somebody said, suppose there were a totalitarian regime. And I thought, isn't there? I mean, we're getting there.
Well, no, don't be silly. You just don't want to speak on the phone anymore.
This is true. Hey, did you ever send for your FBI file? You should. Friends of mine have, and I never have.
I'd be terrified.
You can get, and you probably were somewhere where Barbra Streisand or some war demonstrator or some hippies were.
No, I was once finally the bourbon. No, I was once.
Waitress.
Yeah. No, that's true. I was once in a. Well, no, I wasn't once in a house. I live in that house. On the last day of Bill Clinton's presidency, I'm close friends with Tom Hanks, and Tom and his wife were over at my home, and they phoned Bill Clinton and the office, because they're friends with him, and they phoned, and he phoned back. And about 10 minutes later, and my kids were out in the lawn assuming that a satellite was now staring at our house and monitoring the house. So I'm sure there's something there.
Wow. That gives me
Tell
pause.
another story about Fred Allen. I'm lost. No, I'm sure that we're all filed somewhere.
Oh, I know I am.
Yeah, well, I know you are too.
They forced a guy onto my show, the Nixon administration, once.
Who?
4 guests had spoken against supersonic transport and its effect on the environment. I didn't mean to get into this. And we got a call one day from Washington saying the White House knows that you have had 4 guests on, keeping tally of a talk show late at night.
Yeah, you'd never catch that White House being paranoid.
Anyway, but let that pass. They sent a Mr. Magruder on, not that one from Watergate, but another. They had a number of them, and he had a crew cut and that circle
I remember
thing
that show.
here.
I have complete full memory of that show.
Do you really?
I complete full memory of that show.
Get out of here!
I do.
Get the fuck out of here!
Yeah.
Eddie Murphy. That's my Eddie Murphy.
Uncanny.
I learned that phrase from Eddie Murphy. Somebody, before it's over, I don't want to waste time with it now. Now I'm talking like Jack Benny. Someone say Purple Heart before the evening is over, okay? I don't want to do it now. I don't want to, because I want to hear more about you. Oh, God, what a memory that was.
Well, now I'm going to sit with pins
want
and
to-
needles. When do I say Purple Heart? Is it soon?
Next time we bomb.
Okay. Well,
Here we
how
go.
about right now. Yeah.
Oh, shall I tell him? I have to ask you this because this is definitely about you. Did I hurt your feelings at all the night I was pulled up on stage in your current show?
Why? What'd you say?
Well, I figured you're supposed to play hostile to Jiminy.
Yeah.
Aren't you? Yeah, that's pretty good.
If you want to.
Well, Martin got me up, and we've both got some laughs, and as typically, I can't remember anything I said afterwards, and people said you were so funny. What did I say? I remembered one was, he asks you surreal questions, like, this one, I think this was Abe Lincoln, if he came back today.
If Abe Lincoln were alive today, would he be pleased with his tunnel?
With his tunnel. That good? Should have gone to this. Use it again later.
Yeah, really.
Well, the audience laughed as you did, and with an ad lib, I know Martin knows this as well as I do. You often hear it at the moment you say it. There was no thought behind it. It's said for you in a way. And I thought, but I had time to think, what in hell do you say to that? Now the laugh's getting down, it's almost over, and I heard myself say, if Lincoln were here tonight, he'd want to be shot. Well, I may have even said in this theater.
Yeah.
And then I just thought I saw you wince behind the nose.
No, not remotely. I was thrilled to see you score so.
Okay. I felt bad about the column the next day that said, when Cavett left the stage, it fell back to its normal laughter. But I want to say,
But you know.
how much, some people think this is a very touchy subject, and it is for many people. You speak as an educated gentleman.
Yes.
How are you educated?
I was homeschooled till I was 40. No, I went to
answers-
university for 4 years. I studied, I was 2 years in pre-meds. I was going to be a doctor. That's true. And then I realized after the completion of the second year that I wasn't interested in science. I was just a fan of Richard Chamberlain's work. And that was... and it wasn't enough. It wasn't going to get me there, you know. And then I switched to social work. And then I got a BA in social work. And then as I was about to do my master's in social work, I decided that I would also, because I was now doing a lot of theater, so I would take a year off school, because I'd never left the steps of school. And I went to each professor, and what do you think? Shit, is a good idea? And they all looked at me like I was mad, because why wouldn't you take a year off after 4 years of college? It was a big deal. And so I took a year off, and then that year begat another year, and that begat another year, and that I'm still on that.
So you spent a lot of time in the groves of academe.
I did. I was, whatever that means. I was, boy, someone got those Hooked on Phonics tapes, didn't they? Went to
can
4
I
years
use
of
that?
Yes, of course. You've used everyone else's stuff. Why wouldn't you use that? How many years of school did you go to? 4?
You don't give a shit whether I went to school.
No, I know, but I just want to take a sip of tea and relax for a second.
Okay, take a deep
I
sip
knew
and
it'd be a
I'll-
while.
No, I don't, what? No, I missed that. You got to tell me what it was. It's not fair. I missed it. What was it?
No, it was just something
someone
mean
tell
and
me.
petty. No, I was just saying that
Yeah.
in your answer would be a while, so I could take some tea and sip and relax. That's all. Yeah.
Well, that's all right. I don't know what the hell I was going to say now. School. Oh, you asked me about school. Yeah, I didn't have as much as you. I just graduated college, 4 years in college, but I didn't do any master's work or any of that.
Well, no, I never got to the masters. I was going
got up
to. I was
to the
going
point
to.
of it.
No, we have the same amount.
Yeah. I thought maybe you assumed that I did get to it.
Well, you seem very educated, very erudite. I've always assumed
For
that-
my age.
No. Really, you always had that kind of lovely voice.
Can I thank you for not saying intellectual?
No. Well, first of all, there's nothing wrong with being called intellectual.
No, if it's appropriate, but I used to sort of feel sorry for those who thought I was intellectual. 'Cause
How
I
about
was thinking,
cerebral?
Had they ever seen a real one? I mean, if they thought I was intellectual.
No, but they were.
Yeah.
There was. I do think that. Listen. I'm fascinated. When you talk about Jack Parr, to think that Jack Parr, when I was a kid, when I was 12, in the days when there was one TV in the house and whatever that was turned to, the family watched as a family. Jack Parr would have a Friday night show that you probably wrote on for an hour, and he would sit and interview Malcolm Muggeridge or Robert Morley or spend an hour with Richard Burton, and that was prime time television. I mean, it's kind of astounding.
Yeah, and that was the latter part of Jack's career. But you could still see the magic in Jack.
But I'm saying that was, no, but I'm saying I understand that late night television is late night television. In prime time, they would no more dare have an hour conversation with two fascinating people.
Oh, no.
Never. It wouldn't hold the interest.
Once at a meeting on the Johnny Carson show, or the Parr show, I forget which, I looked at the rundown, what's on the show, 8 minutes of this and 8 minutes of that and 6 minutes of that, and the name of the person, and I saw Peter Ustinov, 6 minutes, Peter Ustinov, 5 minutes. Next, J.P. Morgan, 8 minutes, and J.P. Morgan, another 9 minutes. And I said, but aside from the imbalance here, why, when you have someone as great as Ustinov, there's never been a greater talk show guest, why not have him on for maybe as much as 4 segments? Are you crazy? People want change. Or what about for the whole show? And they threw things at me, and I had to leave the room. But it's much easier for me to do 90 minutes with someone than it is 8 or 10.
Well, I think because you're just one's just revving up after a few minutes. And that's why in modern day talk shows, that they're really variety shows. They're not talk shows. So you really go out and you're expected to have 2 funny stories, 3 funny stories, a couple of opening lines, go to commercial, come back with that story, because they're afraid someone's going to flip to that other show.
I remember once somebody saying, get two funny and 1 warmth out of her for segment 3 of the show. A warmth? Reader's Digest, Lost Dog type thing goes over well. But Jack, to me, was the most magical, mysterious, mercurial personality ever on a television screen. And the great Kenneth Tynan wrote a profile about Jack once. And he said, when Jack's on, no matter who's with him, even if we're Cary Grant, you always are watching Jack. partly because you were afraid you might miss a live nervous breakdown on your home screen. That was true. Sometimes they'd say, Jack's bad today, and everybody on the staff would be like, we don't know what Jack's going through right now, but he's not. But God, it translated into an electric.
Well, it was kind of ahead of his time, too, in the respect that, I mean, he was someone that you didn't know whether he was going to be emotional that day or cry that night or be in a good mood. And then you kind of, it was like having an eccentric neighbor.
Very much.
Yeah.
Very much. Only also funny. Mm-hmm. Do you remember Fat Jack Leonard? I never know what school of comedy people who are not my age recall.
Well, here's what's interesting. Yes, I do know Fat Jack Leonard, but if you say to someone now of 28 years of age, who's Eddie Cantor, they look at you like you're insane. There is now a generation gap, but when I was 25, I knew everyone who was contemporary, but the history of people from, probably vaudeville on, but it doesn't, not the same.
We knew people ahead of our
But I loved Jack Leonard because he was like that kind of Don Rickles sarcastic.
Yeah. He was an insult comic and he talked very fast and so. Mm-hmm. He came on one night with Jack, and I'm backstage, and Jack said, when Fat Jack comes on, I'm not going to answer. Because he throws a line and you have to answer, then he throws another and you have to answer. I'm just not going to answer, and let's let him hang there. So we all stood watching, and he did that. Jack would say, why don't you walk into a parking meter and violate yourself or something. And actually, that's a line I wrote for someone. And silence. Jack wouldn't answer. Fat Jack began to sweat audibly. And finally, he just sort of broke down. And it was sort of something out of the Blue Angel almost. And then he just reached for the nearest fact he could think of, and he said, my wife's an acrobat, and Jack said she'd have to be. Well, he could ad lib.
Yeah.
Oh God, I remember those nights. We don't know how Jack is tonight. Have you aimed your kids toward anything in particular?
No, I leave that to them. Frank Sinatra once said that his father was always there to piss on his dreams. And so I think that I think if one of my kids said, I'd like to go in show business, I, through a frozen smile, would say, that's great. Because part of me would be thinking, oh God, don't pick this career. Don't do it. It's the odds are you might as well go to Vegas and put it on 26. I mean, it's a very tough decision. As you know, and so, however, the reason people go into show business and have no other choice is because they kind of have no other choice. It's their energy and their drive and their dream, and so it doesn't matter. They're prepared to handle disappointment because they're still going to proceed, but. It's hard for a parent to know that your child could be like that. But in my case, my kids have not shown any interest. They all want to do different things.
No talent at all.
No, actually.
How can they be your kids and not have talent?
No, that's actually, my daughter won the acting prize for her high school when she graduated, but then showed no interest in doing that.
Yeah. But how was it Sinatra put it? What did he say?
He said his father was always around to piss on his dreams.
This was during a high mass and.
No, but it makes sense. Frank would say, I want to be a singer. And his father would say, you got to learn to be a barber. I met Frank Sinatra in 1992. He was always my idol, my ultimate idol, Sinatra. And I went to see Frank and Shirley MacLaine at the Greek Theater in 1992. And then there was a party afterwards, and I went back, and Dinah Shore was there, and she said, hey, do you want to meet Frank? He's now 77. I said, sure. I was like shaking. And he's standing there by the bar. He's having a Jack Daniel, And I went up. I said, Mr. Sinatra, you have no idea. You have no concept of how big a fan I am of yours. And he looked at me and he said, I think I do. And then he said, what are you drinking? And I said, oh, whatever you're drinking, Mr. Sinatra. And he turned to the bartender and said, Jack Daniels. And the bartender said, straight up on the rocks, but I didn't hear him properly because I was nervous. I thought he said straight up or relaxed.
Oh, God.
And I said, oh, I'll have it relaxed. And now Frank was irritated. He said, straight up or on the rocks. So already I'd made Frank angry, you know. I thought he was going to, like, break my leg or something.
You left there 2 inches shorter than you were
Yeah,
before.
no, I didn't hang long because I thought, you know,
Yeah.
it will only get worse.
Yeah.
No, he was charming.
I only met him once to talk to, and he was real interesting and real easy to talk to. But he didn't necessarily get a joke. This was at you mentioned Bennett Cerf, so I thought I should keep some continuity here. This was
Well,
at
by the
his
way,
house.
just so you know, I mentioned Bennett Cerf 3 hours ago.
But
Oh, I'm sorry, it just seemed like 3 hours ago.
now cut that out.
Thank you, John.
Now I forgot what it was.
Yeah.
Oh, he was saying, this was late at night. I had done a show going out there to wherever they lived in Connecticut or somewhere. There was Sinatra was a house guest for the weekend, and somebody else was. But he said, we went to Warner's, or you'll know which studio it would have been, where they made the MGM musicals, I guess. And he said, we
MGM.
found our old, is that it?
Yeah. I think so.
Isn't it nice how things work out?
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, he said, we found our old costumes from On the Town, or whatever, the Navy costumes that the 3 of them had on. And he said, none of us could even begin to get into them. And I said, I guess it's when you can't get into the hat that you have to worry. And Esther Williams, Esther Williams' sister, I think it was, and also Ginger Rogers' sisters were there. I didn't get the real thing. I didn't get the sisters.
No.
And they laughed, and he looked at them surprised, and that something funny had gone on, and he had missed it, and he gave me a dirtiest look. But then he gave me the biggest smile in the world. And I couldn't figure that out. It was like an instant bang, a grin like Brando's that would just light you up.
I'm sure he was, always used to feeling like, and therefore always wanting to be the coolest guy in the room.
Yeah.
So if you're the coolest guy in the room and you miss a joke, you, in Frank's case, usually, break someone's leg.
He walked in on Don Rickles' act one night. Nobody insulted Sinatra, as we know. He walked in on Rickles' act when Rickles was fairly new. Rickles saw him and said, "Oh, Frank, make yourself at home, hit somebody." I think he did.
Yeah.
Way back, well, I'll go back even farther now in this evening. What you were saying reminded me about people who bother you in the street and don't, come on, you got time to sign this even though your plane is leaving and all that. Stratford, Connecticut, summer '57. I was in the Merchant of Venice with one line, with Katharine Hepburn. And the stagehands loved her. "Yeah, Miss Hepburn, she's regular. She'll say, 'Hello, how are you?'" And I saw her being regular leave the theater between matinee and evening. And she bicycled over to her house to get a quick nap and come back. So she comes out, and they put some curlers in. And a dopey-looking dame says, "Come back here and sign these autographs. We're the ones that made you." And she said, "Like hell you are." And it made me like her from that time on. Correct me in my, but like hell you are. Would you do it?
Like hell you are.
Oh, it goes right
I
through
met
the-
her. I went to the. I was like 26 years old. It's the only time I met Katharine. And I was 26 years old, and I was in New York, and I was seeing The Royal Family, the Kaufman play, and it was a revival of it. And it was fantastic. And I'm sitting there single, and there was an empty seat beside me, and then I'm kind of waiting for the show to start, and I hear, "Excuse me, thank you. Move the hell, get that umbrella out of the way, thank you." And there's Katharine Hepburn coming in. She sits down, and I kind of, ignore her. And then the play starts, and it's fantastic. And it ends, and Rosemary Harris does a dramatic diatribe and collapses in a heap of emotion onto the stage. And I turned to Hepburn, forgetting that it was Hepburn sitting to me, and I said, "Isn't she classy?" And she said, "Well, she's wonderful. Rosemary's one of the great actresses of all time. I know people because she listens, and that's something very important for an actor to do. Very few actors do it, and I think they should do it more." And as she's talking to me, I'm aware that I'm talking to Katharine Hepburn. And I said to her, well, Miss Hepburn, you're no slouch. And she looked at me, because now I'd broken the magic and talked to her, you know, as Katharine, and she said, thank you. And then she turned to the person and said, do you mind if I change seats? She said. She didn't want any of me after that.
And you never wrote to her or everything? After
No,
that?
I never did. I never saw her
Yeah,
again.
if you had,
Yeah.
you would have gotten a letter back handwritten by her.
Really?
It happened to everybody who ever wrote to her. Yeah, she was very good about
Boy, those
that.
would be good on eBay.
Yes, yes. Think of it. Something you said in that rang a bell with me. When I first saw her, it was this summer at Stratford, and she hadn't gotten there yet. And all the actors were sitting as you are in about the bottom third of the theater, and a guy was giving notes about the schedule for the summer and everything. And then I looked up, and she was there without having entered, it seemed, right in the aisle, looking at us. And I had a galvanic skin response. I've only had that a few times, once with Orson Welles, once with Miss Hepburn, and I can't remember who the other one was. Tommy Steele? No.
Gee, I hope it wasn't Tommy Steele. It seems like it should be
How did I come up with that? Well,
We're editing, right? Yeah.
yeah, well, listen, you've got to, when you've made an audience laugh and exert themselves, you have to give them these little hiatuses in which to cool down.
When we had an audience, we used to. Yeah.
I'm afraid to look.
No, it's gone. They're left. Just these two rows.
We're the ones that made you. No, that doesn't work. Martin.
Yes, Dick.
Martin, is it?
Sure.
It's one of the dirtiest things you can do to somebody. Save that and use it wisely when you
What?
need it. I was being filmed once by a guy in the Midwest who told all his listeners how Cavett and I are great friends and great buddies and great, so much so that they thought I lived with this guy, and he was taping me, and I couldn't resist. His name was Peter, and I just started a sentence by saying, Peter, is it?
No.
And he almost died.
Why would you hurt Peter so?
I think, what? Yes, well, your age is controversial, of course, and you've made a point of never telling anybody what it is. But seriously, you could play Charlie's aunt as the college boy now, and you're over 30.
Yeah, I could play Charlie's uncle. No, I'm 56.
Did you hear that? And he's not kidding. Yeah. I heard Benny once say, in fact, I'm, at this time, 68 years old without any trouble.
You're 68?
Huh?
Are you 68?
I have been.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, you look young.
I can remember I know, people look at me like I'm some sort of miracle of plastic surgery or something.
No.
I
Cary
hope-
Grant once said that when people say to him, you look so young, it means they're really wanting to say, because you are so old. Because you don't say to, you know,
Because you are.
well, you don't say to Brad Pitt,
You never
boy,
say it.
Brad, you look so young.
That's right.
You know,
You would
he is
never
young.
say. Meet
What's
me
that?
behind. Meet me behind the swimming pool. Oh. What are these? Oh, I see. Oh, these are
Was
some-
the real moderator sick? Is that what happened?
These are what?
It's just a question.
What was the question?
I said, did the real moderator get sick?
I shan't even bother to top that.
No.
What made you? What? Say what? Oh, I've always wanted to. Are these questions from the audience or left over from last week's
Yeah.
speaker? Or? Yeah. Okay. Quickly. Always wondered if I could impress you with anything. And when I didn't have a second show as a nightclub comic, I realized down the village, and Jack Rollins, the manager, said, you got your second show? And I don't know, second show. So I did the first one over again. It was agony because some people stayed. It's not good. You don't want to hear it. And so
Just push that mic in.
I said to myself, I don't have a second show for my nightclub act. And so on the next one, I was desperate. And I thought, I'll do imitations. And I didn't know any, really. The only one I could do with You Gave It to My Brother and all the old standards was...
Who was that, by
as
the
a
way?
kid... Oh, well. You're not old enough to remember Walter Brennan.
Nor are they, obviously.
But... Aren't we having fun?
Yes.
I was going to say, I thought, there's one I can do. I can do Richard Loo. I hoped you might show a note of recognition.
Richard Loo.
Loo, L-O-O. Richard Loo, ironically, in World War II, played all the evil Japanese colonels while Japan was decimating his home country. He was in all of them, Purple Heart, Back to Baton, First Yank into Tokyo, every one of them. And I, for some reason, was born able to do Richard Loo. And I...
Well, don't just make us sit here on the edge of our seats. Do it.
Oh. Well, there won't be time for Mr. Cavett to do his Richard Loo. Help me. Say from the Purple Heart.
From the Purple Heart.
No, where the B-29 crew has been downed in Japanese-held China. And all the guys are imprisoned. Sam Levine, Dana Andrews.
Have we done acid together?
No. No.
Because if we did, I think we're peaking.
You know, don't make me laugh. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Those who came to scoff will remain to pray. Mm-hmm. So all you got to do, and you can keep your eyes shut because I don't look like him, is say, as Dana Andrews, you'll never get any of my men to talk, Colonel Mitsubi.
All right.
You ready now? And then I'll come in as Richard Loo.
Hopefully I get to say this on the car ride home, or is it?
No.
No, I say it right now.
Right now.
Oh, okay.
And you, I promise you, Richard Loo's face will swim before your eyes. Okay.
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 What's my line again?
You'll never get any of my men to talk, Colonel Mitsubi.
Okay. I'll say it as Gary Cooper.
No, he wasn't in it.
Oh, no one knows who Richard Loo is. It's
Dana-
fine.
Yes, that's the
Jesus.
whole idea.
Oh, okay.
They will know.
All right, ready?
They will
Okay,
know,
ready.
and they'll admit it.
It's a Gary Cooper movie for now. Trust me.
Okay, doesn't matter.
You'll never get any of my men to talk, Colonel Masushi.
I must remind you, Captain, that a chain is no stronger than its weakest strength.
It's the full picture is in front. You know what? I stand corrected. What is that? For Christ's sake, read the questions.
That's
Yes,
right.
yeah.
Right. Would anyone mind if I read them as Sesu Hayakawa?
Yeah.
Okay. What made you choose the triangle for Ed Grimley? It wasn't an easy decision.
No. They don't want you to answer. They
that's
want
you.
me to answer it.
Oh,
No, I heard it. Oh.
there's more.
Yeah. Oh, there's more.
There's a
What made
codicil.
you choose the triangle for Ed Grimley, and do you really play Sandy Schaefer? It was a random choice because, you know, all these decisions, that was from a sketch in Saturday Night Live, and Ed Grimley was practicing his instrument, and it could have been any instrument. It probably was because it was small. and you could get in the set. And it seemed eccentric. It seemed like you kind of imagine if he was part of a symphony, he'd be at the very back, and he'd have one moment every 18 minutes. And it seemed like an appropriate decision. And then, but like anything, you do it in a sketch, and then everyone says, oh, I love that he played the triangle. So you go, all right, in the next sketch, he'll play the triangle. And from now on, he'll play the triangle. When I was doing Primetime Glick, and this character, Jiminy Glick, who interviewed you, and you know, it's all improvised.
Yeah.
On that show. And one time, in an improvisation, you don't deny. So whenever you can't just say, whenever someone says something to you, you have to agree with it and take it to the next step. So Tom Hanks was the guest, and he came out and said, you know, Jiminy, I'm thrilled to be here tonight, but what I really miss is your daytime show. And from that moment on, I had a daytime. I said, well, so do I miss it too, you know, and I had to go, we used to do it from the Beverly Garland Motel, and so, you know, and you just kind of pretend that you have a daytime show. And so that's why Ed Grimley had a triangle. It was a decision.
All right. For a small, could we get a typist here?
Here, pass it to me.
For a small country, population-wise, Canada produces a considerable number of talented professional comedians. What is it about Canada that produces so you can finish it yourself?
I think they've produced many satirists and people who do characters, Mike Myers and Jim Carrey and SCTV and a lot of people. And I think that in Phil Hartman, I think it's tied to the fact that they're in the middle. I always liken Canada to the middle of three sisters. You know, you've got the United States kind of like Michelle Pfeiffer, kind of, you know. And you have Emma Thompson, the English one, elegant. And Canada's kind of a little bit like Betty Davis and now Voyager. You know, it's beautiful, but it doesn't know it. You know, if it just needs a little plucking, and so sometimes that's where the insecurity comes from. Are we, you know? And the reality is, the rest of the world looks at Canada with all this admiration and pride, and it's kind of hip to be Canadian in comedy anyway. And I think the Canadians sit in the middle. They see American television, they see British television. They're like the middle sibling. They snipe and make fun and satirize and learn, and then they. So I think that they've had a unique kind of absurdist take on comedy. In Second City, there's Second City in Chicago and Second City in Toronto. And the Second City in Chicago is often brilliantly written, and sometimes the Second City in Toronto is funnier because it's more character-driven and absurdist.
Is that more than you expected? That sounded good. Were you at all influenced by Ernie Kovacs?
I think I was. I must admit, my biggest influences were Jonathan Winters and people like that, and Peter Sellers. But I loved Ernie Kovacs. I was a tad young for Ernie Kovacs because I think he died when I was like 11 or something. And a lot of his stuff was live. Some of his best stuff was of the time.
Yeah. Jonathan, when he first came on The Tonight Show live with Jack Paar.
The funniest thing in the world.
Never seen anything like it. No shoulders were stood upon. He was absolutely original. Created a mad world that you cannot, if you're somebody who has never seen him, you can't describe him to them. It'd be foolish.
No, he was, I think, the funniest
You've seen him,
of
you
all.
almost could. I can only remember one instant when he was doing a guy at the filling station filling the tanks and striking up a conversation with the driver. He says, "Is that the wife there in the car?" "Hi." And it was sort of like that, but you can see how John. Stupid to put him in movies. God, he had a terribly, tragically, to my money, mismanaged career. He should have done 2 great specials a year that only
He wanted to
could
make
do.
money.
Yeah, because acting had nothing to do with what Jonathan Winters does. Which guest was the hardest to interview? The most enjoyable? Oh, they're both questions.
No.
Oh, it says Dick Cavett on this one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Is this assuming as Jiminy Glick on Primetime Glick, or do you mean the guests on the show? Primetime Glick, I would say The best is always from, probably Steve Martin. And the worst you don't say. It's rude. You don't want to say that because they came into your home and it wasn't my fault they stunk.
Martin Short, what was your I hate favorite questions, but what was your favorite SNL moment? How did Lorne Michael find you, Michaels?
I never did the show with Lorne Michaels. I did it with Lorne Michaels. Took a 5-year hiatus from Saturday Night Live, and that's when I did it.
Ha ha!
And I did it. Actually, I was in a unique situation to do Saturday Night Live. I did it for 1 year. I had a 1-year contract, which is kind of unheard of, and they thought they were going to be maybe canceled, so they brought in people that had actually done other shows, which is also atypical for Saturday Night Live. So they brought in Christopher Guest, who had just done Spinal Tap, and I was on SCTV, and Billy Crystal, and Harry Shearer, who was also in Spinal Tap, and so we were given 1-year contract, and so it was hard work, but you knew it was for 1 year.
Yeah. Thoughtful. Well, we're not too impressed with your town. The streets are dirty. What makes New York so crummy? Tourists. That was good. Ask that again. What's the secret to your happy marriage, Martin Short? Is it that you always obey your wife?
Yes, dear. Yeah,
Okay.
that's the answer I've learned right from the beginning. No, I think everyone, obviously 2 people want to make it work, but it's luck. I'd be happily and contentedly married and divorced 6 times if that were to be the case. I see no shame in. I know friends who have found great soulmates on their 3rd and 4th marriages.
Yeah.
God bless them.
Yeah.
I just got lucky the first one.
Got to keep at it.
Yeah.
Who shot the invisible swordsman? Paul.
I don't know. That's from Three Amigos, the movie. Yeah. I think it was Ned Niederlander shot him. Yeah.
These are your people now.
Yeah.
How would you, Jiminy Glick, have interviewed Jimi Hendrix?
Well, Jiminy Glick would only be interested in what he was. If Jiminy Glick interviewed Bill Clinton, he wouldn't ask him about Monica Lewinsky. He'd say, "Why doesn't Shannon Doherty work more?" And he just wants to know what he wants to know. So Jimi Hendrix, he'd probably say, "Do you know Roddy McDowell?"
Yes. Oh, God. What type wedding would Frank, the wedding coordinator. Oh, yeah, I know who it is. Recommended for, what would recommend? What type of wedding would they recommend for Tom and Katie? How would Tronk recommend the wedding?
Well, I would be very chic, and probably, I don't know, you have, she's pregnant now, you'd throw puff rice, wouldn't you?
Okay.
Oh, no, she had the baby, that's it. I don't know.
I only learned that I got quoted, I was heard on CNN to say the other day that I always believed everything Katie Couric said except opening night when she said, "We've got photographs here. Everyone is waiting to see." I wasn't. And I was quoted as saying I could have gone a decade without seeing the homunculus they produced. Well, sore ass. Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, to what extent, if any, were you influenced by, can you guess, Danny Kaye?
Not so much. I must admit. People
I know why people
have
would
compared. I don't know that. I was probably influenced much more by Jerry Lewis, but Danny Kaye. I loved the court jester, but then there was an element of Danny Kaye that irritated me.
He was a schmuck.
Was that true?
That was the main part.
Yeah. Was he? Yeah, I heard he was.
No, I heard that too. Actually, he was very nice to me, as people always say, but he was. And I had a
But I don't know. I used to switch that.
I couldn't
That thing.
exactly as in Martin's case. I liked the court gesture too, and the pellet with the poison in the palace. And couldn't think of anything to compliment him for when he came on a show of mine, really, because I grew out of him. And I just thought,
What a lovely evening to just diss the memory of Danny Kaye.
so thinking of him doing those things that he liked, I thought, you're the most graceful comedian.
Well,
I
that's
think,
good.
in comedy.
Well, he was graceful. Listen, I mean, the
He
thing
went
about
back-
comedy, you have to remember that comedy is the most subjective thing in the world. You look in the 20s, physical comedy was the greatest art form. By the 50s, it was the lowest art form. It was, I think, Curly Howard is the most genius comedian imaginable. Other people can't stomach. So I don't think anyone's right or wrong. So in no way are we saying anything negative against Danny, but we're just saying that it's a personal thing.
I wonder if you forgive me for saying this. I went when you said the name of whoever it was just now.
Oh, Curly Howard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That guy.
Yeah. One of the Stooges, backstage on a Tonight Show, taught me to cross both eyes and then have one wander out to the right and back without the other one moving. How many want to see that? Hands?
Well, I'd see it. They can't see it, but they can imagine that it's flicking. Wow.
It's great, isn't it? Spooks people.
Yeah.
Well, now that we're into this, and I just met Danny Kaye's daughter the other day, possibly, hope she isn't here.
I love Danny Kaye, by the way.
Maybe I won't tell this.
No, don't tell it. For the first
Might
time
besmirch
in your
somebody.
life, censor. Yes, you.
Well, I'm sorry, Ollie. I didn't mean to do it like that. I met Stan Laurel.
I
Now-
don't care.
Were you at all influenced by Ernie Kovacs? Oh, we may have. That may be it. That may be it. Somebody's here with someone's agent and therefore wants to know why that person has such lousy seats. But I seem to have buried it here somewhere. No, well, we'll just have to ask later. Do you think sex is dirty?
You're making these up.
It is if you do it right.
Yeah.
Woody Allen, 1968, the Dick Cavett daytime show. A high school girl yelled out, "Do you think sex is dirty?" Woody said, "It is if you do it right." And it was quoted all that year by people who could not think of it as such a joke themselves. Let's see, Martin, did you come here with anything particular you wanted to tell me or?
No, I just wanted to know if you knew any famous people, and I found out.
I suppose.
Hey, what's
that's
in your
fun.
bag?
I thought you'd never have. Just for that, what you just did, you're not going to get it now.
Oh, come on.
Well, we didn't come here to plug things like Broadway shows or anything like
No.
that.
You
Right.
mean Fame Becomes Me at
Well-
the Bernard B. Jacobs, 45th Street?
Seats available.
Yes.
Or are there?
Well, always.
There are always some, yeah. Let me ask you this. I was interviewed on the phone the other day by somebody plugging the DVDs of my shows that have come out.
Which are brilliant, by the way, and I have them all. That's true.
Do you, in fact?
I've told you this backstage. I adored the Dick Cavett show more than anything in the world when it first came out in 1969, or 68, I can't remember. And the second those DVDs came out, I grabbed at them because they were like seeing, as I told you backstage, an old friend.
Is he kidding?
No, I'm sincere.
No, that gets to me.
Well, it's true.
You want to see a tiny tear? Well, then I won't need to give you the present I brought you.
I know what it is, but I bet I. But you know
probably have
why?
it.
Because Christmas is coming up, and I can always, But I
Yep,
bet I
yep.
have it.
How dare they? Two artistes like us, and some
Yes.
little jerk backstage says it's time to wrap up. Well, I'll just do this quickly. It's something to ponder, and it ties in with something Martin said earlier. Comedians of the past and so on. This latest DVD that's come out is done by Shout Factory. It's brilliantly put together. All of theirs are. And the guy on the radio said to me, and I have to use this to prompt myself, okay, so you have here, 9 discs, and for their money they get Fred Astaire, Marlon Brando, Mel Brooks, Frank Capra, Betty Davis, Kirk Douglas, Katharine Hepburn, Alfred Hitchcock, John Huston, Groucho Marx, Robert Mitchum, and little Orson Welles. The whole shows are there. And the guy said to me, and I'll say it too, who would today's counterparts be to those people?
Ooh, that's a good question.
It is. isn't
Finally.
I love this guy.
No rush. I would say definitely I could see, they were 90-minute shows,
Yeah.
90 minutes with Meryl Streep.
Yes, I think that's fair.
I'd want to see 90 minutes with Nathan Lane. I'd see 90 minutes with Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True. Good.
90 minutes, Jack Nicholson.
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah.
If only he would do it. If only.
George Maharis. George Maharis.
Yeah. I got to do Pinky Lee first. Yeah. He's a dear fellow, I guess.
I like that.
But it does. It says something, doesn't it? I mean, could you make the great classic films then and cast them now? Who would be Paul Henreid? Who would be Claude Rains? Who would be?
Oh, I think you would find them. I do. I
Yeah?
think they're brilliant actors. There's so many brilliant actors. We were in a situation when we were casting our show, and actors would come in, and it is the most daunting thing in the world to see someone who will come in and sing brilliantly and be funny, and then you'll realize, they're not. There's something else that's missing. You're not going to cast them, and they're not going to maybe work that month. It's insane.
The very fact that Law and Order shows you every week that New York is loaded with brilliant actors.
Yeah, absolutely.
Most of them you feel you've seen only once.
Yeah.
Or twice.
No, I think that
You were stunning on that show.
Oh,
Did
thanks.
people dare you to play a serious thing and be a serial rapist? Or had it been in you all the time?
I was asked to do that show. I met with the writers, and the only thing I had said was, don't. I always get nervous when I see someone in comedy crossing over, and it looks like, they're stretching publicly, and they never smile because they're being serious now. So I think wisely they made that character very kind of charming and likable, and then he was just the sickest thing you've ever seen.
Yeah. Reminded me in a way of Barry Foster, the British actor in Frenzy.
Oh, that was a good movie.
The man who took his beautiful stick pin out and placed it in his collar and then strangled the ladies with his scarf. I don't know why it reminded me of it. Oh, you'll love this. He said...
Hey, what about that woman who said wrap up?
Oh,
I think she meant it.
we will wrap up. We're going to wrap up, but we're going to stay out here. I was just going to do this. Hitchcock, directed by my friend.
You don't mind
Barry
if I
Foster.
return some calls during this?
No, use your...
I just have a call. I just want to check. See if the kids are okay. Now go ahead.
Have you ever seen anything like that? He forgot how he loved me a minute ago. He said Hitchcock used to come into the caravan, we say trailer, don't we?
Yeah.
And say, two men, Gregory Peck and whoever else, come down the hill from Drury Lane. They walk through the Inns of Court, cross the bridge to the Thames. They look in, they go back to their chambers, and neither man was ever in London. How did I do it? And then you had to guess. And then he said, then he would say non sequiturs. He'd close his eyes for a minute, sit there. You
Louder. Okay. No, I can't. I can't hear you. How can they? I know. Your Hitchcock is so.
Well, it reminds me of a really good story.
Yeah.
No, but he said Hitch would come out with these weird non sequiturs, and he said one day he just sat for a moment, and then he said, "Grace Kelly, the most promiscuous woman I've ever known."
Really?
Yeah, it's true, I guess, but
God,
we were too young, weren't we?
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, Jimmy Stewart, all sorts of people. It's amazing, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Martin has a little number he wants to do to close.
No. I have no number, except that I would like to say I toast 92nd Street Y for graciously inviting me, and I toast Mr. Dick Cavett for graciously chatting with me.
Grazie. And oh, look at, sit down, you bastard. Look at